Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
Ready to take your nascent career to the next level. At Global NACE Pathways, we're here to make your dream of working in the US healthcare system a reality. From expert NCLEX exam preparations to personalized consulting and relocation support, led by the incredible Dr. Alice Nalondo, who holds a Doctor of Nursing Practice and is certified as a family NACE practitioner and a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. Our team delivers top-notch training to help you answer the NCLEX exam. Once you pass your NCLEX exam, we will connect you with the US-based recruiting agencies, setting you on the path to an amazing career in healthcare. Ready to get started? We're just a call or a message away. Call or WhatsApp us now at +1 346 328 1110 for the US or +260 961 875 081 for Zambia, or email info@embehavioral.com. Let's make your dreams come true together. Global NACE Pathways, transforming careers, changing lives.
Hello everybody, and welcome to ZBTR TV. It is Saturday, August the 16th. In 12 months exactly from to where we are right now, Zambia will be going to the polls again to vote for a president, parliamentarians, councillors, and everything else, all those leaders. Please, I want you to pay attention. The reason I'm doing this series of shows is for you to be informed so that we do not make the mistakes that we've made in the past. It's very important, especially for those of us that were born after 1991. There's a lot of things that has happened in the country that you're not privy to. That's why I'm doing these historical shows, all right? So tag a friend, let them know that the show is live and we're about to get into this is about one of the most important conversations you are going to ever experience. Well, today is not your usual talk show moment. We are sitting down with someone who's been around the block, helped shape Zambia's path, and Mr. Akashambatwa Lewanika is a founding father of the MMD, served as advisor, lived through our constitutional roller coaster over the past 30 to 40 years. We are about to unpack isn't just a political trivia, it's the beat and pulse of Zambia's economy, the copper booms, the structural adjustments, the growing pains of the economy. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Akashambatwa Mbikusita Lewanika, who is not a stranger to us, but it's important for you to learn and to hear what he has to share with us today. Welcome, sir, and good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. It's a very welcome privilege to have this opportunity to discuss these issues that you are focusing on.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
you
sir.
You are quite right that they are very, very important for the immediate way forward for Zambia. And you are quite right to call it a roller coaster of constitutional changing, but it's even worse than a roller coaster. Those who know Greek mythology know the story of Sisyphus, who was condemned to be rolling a big stone up a hill. But each time, just before he reaches the apex, the stone rolls back. That has been the experience of Zambia in constitution making.
Unfortunately.
As well as in really landing on a democratic platform for the country's governance to be as we would all want it to be really established and almost to be able to be taken for granted that it is working and it allows all of us to work.
That's right. That's right. All right, sir. Let's dive in and get into the nitty-gritties of details. A little bit of history for those who may not know some of the things that you've been engaged in. As a founding member of the MMD, in fact, if not the architect of the MMD, you helped Zambia move from one-party UNIP rule to multi-party politics in 1991. What was the original concept and vision of the formation of MMD?
The original concept was based on the realization that the train of political development in Zambia into independence had been derailed and misdirected. So the immediate motivation was to correct the deviation that had taken place away from the original independence dispensation, which promised freedom, justice, and equality for all. In the terms of those days, the late 50s, early 60s, the train that was supposed to bring progress and freedom. In the language of the 1990s, when we started MMD, we summarized it by saying that it's democracy and development.
Yes.
But the same independence agenda that we were fighting for, and we still unfortunately need to struggle to institute. So the one-party state and other development even before the declaration of one-party state had deviated from the promises of independence. And that was the number one thing, to try to correct that.
Okay.
And mostly the deviation can be said to be how we were mismanaging constitutional development. Yes.
Constitutional development is the key word that you have just said there. How would you say the shift, both constitutionally and politically, impacted economic policy decision direction in those the first few years?
Well, let's say that the first election in the 1960s, in 1962, which was the most open and democratic one up to that point, but not quite democratic.
So we had elections in 1962?
Yes. And they were based on who's this? Anyway, the British Secretary for Colonial Affairs had brought in a constitutional regime, which was an adjustment of the constitution that was disputed in 1958, called the Benson Constitution. Benson was the governor of Northern Rhodesia, who proposed constitutional measures which the Africans rejected because they still had built-in white supremacists and white domination.
Yeah.
And this is also related to the fact that although the Northern Rhodesia African Congress, National Congress, had rejected those proposals when they were being discussed, When the British showed that they are not listening and they are going ahead, then there was a split in the Congress because some leaders, particularly the top leaders, like Harry Nkumbula and Lawrence Katirungu, felt that boycotting the election has disadvantages. So they were pushing for, despite protests, to participate. But the younger crop of people, Spalo Mundia, Kapwepwe, Kamanga, and others, insisted that they must go through with the boycott. And they threatened to make sure that the elections don't take place. And they split from Congress to form the Zambia African Congress in 1958, October 1958. Coincidentally, it was October 24th, 1958, when the split took place.
Oh, wow.
October 24th is also United Nations Day. As you know, the freedom struggle in Africa was in line with the promises of the post-World War II UN Charter, which believed in the right of everybody for self-determination and freedom and so on. Yes. So it was important to attach that date, which later on is actually the Independence Day of Zambia. So when the ZANC was born, it was born in a very fiery and loud manner. And the colonial authorities got signals that these people are very serious. They were going to disrupt the elections. So they banned the Zambia African National Congress.
Oh, wow.
On March 1959 and detained almost all of their top leaders. The detentions were in various parts of the country.
Yes.
Then the elections did go ahead, but to nobody's satisfaction.
Okay.
So that now there was.
So what were the elections about? Because Zambia was not independent then.
Oh, it was an election to the Legislative Council.
Okay.
It's an election to the Legislative Council. And now in 1959, those elections, in the absence of ZANC leaders, did take place. And Mr. Harry Nkumbula, the leader of the Northern Rhodesia National Congress, did stand in an election. So he went ahead and not boycotting, and he won a seat. Okay. And that's for the first time that Mr. Harry Nkumbula went to the Legislative Council in those elections. Within the same elections, another African, Mr. Musumbulwa, won a seat, but under the United Federal Party, UFP, and another African, Mr. Mwamba, in fact, Prince Mwamba, who later became a chief, Mwamba, was nominated. So the two of Mr. Musumbulwa and Mr. Mwamba became ministers, the first black ministers in the Northern Rhodesia executive, and members of the Legislative Council.
Yes.
But after the end of 1959, the elections having taken place, they released the leaders of ZANC. And the leaders of ZANC then reconstituted themselves into the United National Independence Party. So that by the end of 59, the remaining leaders of ZANC were released, including President Kaunda Spalo, who were in Salisbury jails. And in 1960, this is the first time that Kenneth Kaunda becomes leader of UNIP.
Okay.
That story is also, we can discuss it later. So that after that, 1960 was always earmarked as a year of decision in the Federation of Rhodesia and Nyasaland. Because when the Federation was imposed, there was an agreement that it would be reviewed within the first 10 years. And for a long time, 1960 was earmarked as the year in which it would be reviewed. So in addition to reviewing the federation, they also reviewed the constitution of Northern Rhodesia.
Okay.
And then Colonial Secretary MacLeod is one I was about to forget. Came up with a constitution and an electoral regime which was actually earmarked not to be won by anybody.
Wow.
And that is the result where the predominantly European settler party, the United Federal Party, won 16 seats. The predominantly indigenous African party, the United National Independence Party, UNIP, won 14. Then another predominantly African party, the Northern Rhodesia African National Congress, won 7.
Oh, wow.
So this placed the Congress in a key position to decide who will form the executive. There was hopes on the European settler side that Congress would choose to go into a coalition with the United Federal Party because they had in any case run the election with an electoral pact. There was an electoral pact between Congress and the United Federal Party. They did not run against each other. They supported each other. So the UFP was very confident that their electoral partner would naturally support them in forming a coalition government. But at the same time, on the African nationalist side, they had always acknowledged that Harry Nkumbula, the Congress itself, was an African nationalist party, which had fought all along towards the goal of an African government, majority government. So at the end of the day, the Congress chose to go into an alliance, a coalition government with UNIP. That is 1962 election.
Okay.
So it was significant in the sense that for the first time, we had a majority African executive council. And a majority of African in the Legislative Council from 1962. This was a signal that we are now moving towards independence. So again, the British showed preparedness to adjust themselves and come up with another constitution. This is the constitution that was done at the end of 1963. And which provided for an electoral regime for the election of January 1964. You must remember 1964 is the key year in the development of Zambia. So, but it was still Northern Rhodesia. So in the 1964 January election, UNIP was able to win enough seats not to require Congress. So they didn't have a coalition government. And once UNIP had a majority in the Legislative Council, the British also were ready to shift gears, and the real last lap negotiation for the independence of Zambia started after those elections. Between January and May, all the negotiations were completed. The independence negotiations were completed. The Barotseland agreement was reached because there was always the question of whether or not Barotseland would go into independence as an integral part of Zambia after Northern Rhodesia becomes independent. So the Barotse establishment and its people were divided. Some wanted to go together with Northern Rhodesia to constitute a united Zambia. Others wanted Barotseland to be independent like Botswana, like Lesotho, like Swaziland. So the Barotseland agreement was the compromise, negotiated compromise, which allowed Barotseland to be an integral part of Zambia while retaining some internal local government authority. With the government of Barotseland as the principal local government authority in Barotseland. So that was the Barotseland Agreement. Once that was reached, in fact, you could say that on the back of the Northern Rhodesia independence call, then the gate towards independence was opened. So by May, the Barotseland Agreement had been agreed, negotiated, and concluded, and the Northern Rhodesia independence agenda was negotiated and concluded, so that in July 1964, the British passed the Zambia Independence Act, which is the legal basis for Zambia's independence, and which actually constitutes the first constitution of Zambia in July. Now
this is 64.
64. So you can imagine that in the last lap, Zambia's path to independence was speeded up, so that between January and May, you conclude all the negotiation. By July, the Independence Act is made, and the date is set of 24th October, the same year as the Independence Day. Now the dispensation there also ruled out what had been the tradition in the process of independence in Africa, in the case of Malawi, in the case of Kenya, in the case of Ghana, that after the self-government stage, which Zambia attained in January, after the January 1964 election.
Yes.
In the past, there were always another election before independence. In the case of Northern Rhodesia, the British made 2 points: that there's no need for another election. Secondly, that when Zambia becomes independent without another election, President Kaunda will be the president.
How?
And that is written by name. One wonders in the constitution-making tradition that supposing the misfortune had happened, that he had passed away before October 24, when the constitution mentions only him to be president of Zambia. But as it turned out, he lived up to become president of Zambia. Now, also in the case of Barotseland Agreement, in addition to signing it, President Kaunda went to Barotseland in August, exactly 11 months after the signing of the Barotseland Agreement, and exactly 11 months before the scheduled date of Zambia's independence, to assure the Barotse people that he will honor the Barotseland Agreement. That as far as he's concerned, is happy that the agreement was based on the fact that Barotseland was going to be an integral part of Zambia. So that's how we entered independence.
Independence, okay.
Now, in terms of this, what you call the roller coaster, it begins by the bad faith, even in the process, even up to that stage.
I can see, I can see that we have inherited a lot of bad habits from the colonial masters, which we have carried forward without even us realizing that these things, we got them from the colonial masters, including one of the things that I hate with a passion, Mr. Lewanika, the Public Order Act. I mean, I don't understand why every president cannot repeal that thing.
Well, because they are replacement of the colonial master. I mean, without jumping the gun, because we are not independent. We did not decolonize. Because in addition to the Public Order Act from the mid-50s, whose intention was really to suppress political activities of Africans, to curtail their freedom of movement, association, and speaking out speech. after the 1962 election, during the coalition government, a crisis occurred in the northern province and the northern part of eastern province. The Lumpa Church rebellion. Because UNIP,
yes, I remember that,
did not accept the religious position of the Lumpa Church, who did not want to participate in politics. So they were forcing them to buy UNIP cards.
Well,
and
you remember UNIP was forcing all of us to buy cards.
Yes. Now the Lumpa Church followers resisted. So with President Kaunda as Prime Minister in colonial Northern Rhodesia, in a government which had internal self-government authority, they declared, in cooperation with the governor, Evelyn Horn, and the British colonial secretary, a state of emergency. Now, what happened after independence, long after they had suppressed the Lumpa Church rebellion, they continued with the state of emergency in addition to the Public Order Act. Now, the state of emergency is like a sweeping Public Order Act. And the Public Order Act is like the state of emergency in reserve, that if all things fail, you can suppress your people.
Let me ask you this question. So I'm very interested to know. So the Public Order Act, even in our current constitution, is still phrased the way it has been from original time.
No, it has been changed. It's not in the constitution. It's a subsidiary legislation.
How?
It was always a subsidiary legislation, even in the colonial days, which empowers basically the government to freeze the human rights and the freedom of Africans for ostensibly for public order. Now, after the Lenshina, they kept it. Now, what happened at independence and before independence, when the state of emergency was instituted, it was with the proviso that every 6 months it had to lapse, and if you wanted it to continue, you had to go back to Parliament every 6 months and renew it. And this was the case. So after independence, they continued renewing the state of emergency every 6 months. Then in 1969, they got tired of renewing it. And they decided that the Public Order Act, once the state of emergency once declared, can stay on at the pleasure of the president, no longer having to be reviewed by Parliament. And from 1964 until November 1991, there was a permanent state of emergency in Zambia.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes. So the Public Order Act remained basically in the same text, but they kept changing little bits of it. Then after MMD became the government administration in 1991.
Yes.
We had campaigned that we will erase the Public Order Act and we will stop the state of emergency. So the state of emergency was halted immediately after change of government in 91. But within the next year, the MMD again under President Chiluba wanted to reinstate a state of emergency over what was called zero option, which leads to the various arrests. But anyway, that was not on a permanent basis and it was opposed. I remember myself, Chilufyaka Pwepwe, Bodwin Nkumbula, and others, although we were MMD and in the governing party, we opposed that state of emergency. and but it continued. But even without the state of emergency, as long as you have the Public Order Act,
yeah,
you basically have you are covered for suppressing the people.
exactly.
So that
and to
after
detain
MMD
people
came into power,
indiscriminately. Yeah.
members of the United National Independence Party tested their own medicine and finally realized that this order is bad.
Yeah.
So under Comrade Christine Mulundika, UNIP members went to court to seek to declare the Public Order Act unconstitutional because it contradicts the Bill of Rights. And they won their case. Now the government pretended to have accepted the judiciary's decision, but then they would run back to Parliament and rewrote the law, changed very little. In fact, the main change was that instead of requiring permission for holding meetings, now you had to make notification. But in practice, up to date, notification is the same as asking permission, because when you notify the police, they are free to refuse.
Yeah, and they have done it many times.
And they do it consistently, in fact. So that every police officer, once they get any application, any notification for a meeting, they check with the political authorities of the ruling party, who indeed don't want the opposition party to meet. So the safest position for a police officer is to refuse. And this is the state we are still on. And it is a good thing, although it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing to continue this way, but it's a good thing that our history shows clearly. That whether it was UNIP, whether it was MMD, whether it was PF, whether it was UPND, whether it was the colonial government, they really are not truly ready to govern a free people.
No, they are not. Unfortunately, they are not.
These days when people are getting ready for the next campaign, which you have put dates to now, I'm not hearing any of these political authorities categorically saying on day one, Bill number 1 in Parliament is to abolish the Public Order Act.
Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. No, they don't want
to talk about it. So that is part of the roller coaster you're talking about, this Sisyphean thing that you keep rolling this stone. But when it comes to crossing over into a real democratic regime, we allow this rock to roll back again. To where we found it at the colonial, at the closure of the colonial government. Governance.
Let me ask you this. Like I said in my introduction, you have not only witnessed or lived through, you were part of government when I want you to give us some highlight or outcome of each Constitution Review Commission, beginning with the Mvunga Commission. What were the highlights of each commission?
Okay, thank you very much. This is a very good background for everybody, I think. Now, once we had returned the country to multi-party, or once UNIP had conceded, and because they had wanted us to have a referendum in October 1990.
1990, yes.
For Zambians to decide whether or not they want a one-party state. But the campaign we had begun showed clearly that they don't want a one-party state. So UNIP withdrew that referendum and agreed on its own to work towards reintroducing multi-party democracy. So in that agreement, the UNIP government set up the Mvunga Commission of inquiry. along the same line that they had set up the Chona Commission in 1972.
Yes.
Under Mainza Chona, which brought in the one-party state.
One-party state, yeah.
And this one was supposed to bring in the multi-party state. Now, the two have many things in common. The formation of the two commissions, the Chona Commission one
and the Mvunga, yeah.
The Chona Commission in 72 was based on a decision of the cabinet and the president alone. And they decided Zambia was going to have a one-party state. So the commission's terms of reference was not to find out whether Zambians want a one-party state or not, but to find out from Zambian what type of one-party state they wanted. So the terms of reference were restricted. Then the president himself appointed all the commissioners, although he added the leader and the deputy leader of the Congress, who were Mr. Harry Nkumbula and Mr. Mundia at the time.
Yes.
But the rest of the commissioners were people who had no independent minds of their own. They were either
did they go around the country? Did they go?
They did go around the country, and wherever they went, when the people started to speak, contribute in ways that pointed to not wanting a one-party state, they were told that that's outside the terms of reference. So they were actually shepherding people to just describe what type of one-party state they wanted. Now, the Zambians had not experienced any type of one-party state.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a very solid basis to determine what sort of one-party state. Nobody gave them a list of the different kinds of one-party state to choose from. So that the other aspect is that despite that, the people's submissions to the Choma Commission were very strong in favor of separating the head of stateship and the head of government.
Okay.
They were, in other words, in favor of having a sort of prime ministerial executive head of government position and separate from the head of state. Secondly, they were in favor of limiting the terms of the president.
Term of office.
Term of office to 2.
Okay.
This is in 1972. So the battle we had in 2001 had also been fought in 1972. Now, the other characteristics of these commissions is that they are founded on an Inquiries Act, which means that the commission has to report to government, and cabinet has to review their report and decide what of their proposals have to be brought forward into a white paper for the bill. So it means that before people saw what the commission had reported, the cabinet had rejected the idea of separating the head of state from head of government. They had rejected the limited term
of office,
and so many other concerns that the people had about the one-party state. So then, which means that the final document, which became a one-party state, was actually what was approved by the president and the cabinet. Now, in the case of the Mvunga Commission, what it has in common, it was also based on the Inquiries Act. The president also chose 2 members of the up-and-coming advent opposition party, MMD. We were not yet a party.
Okay.
So the president chose myself and Arthur Wina, who was our chairman. I was national secretary, to be on that board. And in my usual militancy, I followed the position of Mr. Mundia and Nkumbula. I rejected that appointment. Although sometimes when I run out of change and money, I regret that, you know, the people I left there went ahead and came out with fatted wallets. So, but MMD position accepted our position with Arthur that we refused to be handpicked into that commission.
How did you want it to be done?
Nevertheless, it went ahead. So once it went ahead, then we reviewed the situation to say, okay, although we are not participating in it as commissioners, we have to make a submission.
Yes.
So myself, Ludwig Sondash, Remy Mushota, and Lawrence Shimba, who was the university professor, and others, we drafted the MMD submission as what we wanted in the new multi-party constitution.
Multi-party constitution.
Yeah. So that was the end result, is that a new constitution, or the old constitution, was amended, and it included the term limit, which had been rejected earlier, except that the UNIP government played the trick that has been played in many places in Africa. They say, okay, we accept the 2-term limit, but don't count the terms we have had. By that time, President Kaunda had been president between the 1964-68 term, that is one, 68-72 term, that is the second, 73 to 78, that is the third, 78 to 83. So he had several terms. So he said, don't count those terms.
So we are starting afresh
now. So that he was able to stand for the 1991
elections.
So he could not rule himself out from another term. And this is why in 1996, he's still expected to run, because that would have been only his second countable term, which unfortunately, the MMD government brought in a constitutional change. Again, this is repetitive, that constitutional change for very specific short-term, usually very personal and partisan reasons.
Yes.
So the MMD had personal reasons to stop President Kaunda. They had partisan reasons to cripple UNIP. So they changed the constitution in 1996 to bar President Kaunda from standing.
By adding the parentage thing.
Parentage thing, which is a very silly one, because you see, we are all mixed.
Yes,
every traditional district before the SATA additional to district in Zambia has an international border. And all these borders cut across our people, the same people. So that for Africans to really be so fussy about whether someone is from Nyasaland or someone is from Zambia, none of these borders are ours. I mean, people went to work on the copper belt from Zimbabwe, from Malawi, from Tanganyika to Kuyuland, from Kasai land in the Congo. And many of them, their children, if not them, have remained as Zambians. So that is also the problem, the consistent problem of changing constitution selectively. Now, this 1996 constitution was supposed to be the product from another constitution after the Mvunga constitution. There was the Mungomba constitution.
Mungomba. Mr. Lewanika, before we continue, let's do this. Let's take a break here. I want you to take a glass of water so that you refresh yourself. We shall come back after the break and then we continue. Everybody, Let's just take a short break here and we shall come back after the break, okay?
Hello, Zambian diaspora businesses. Do you want to connect with your community back home, right on ZBTR TV? I'm here from Vibeforge AI Studios, Tilfeus, where we're crafting faith-fused media with AI magic. From AI music video production to powerful AI image creation and even music composition. We've got everything you need to make your advertising truly resonate on ZBTR TV. If you're ready to make an impact, let's create something extraordinary together. Your vision, AI powered. Connect with Vibeforge AI Studios today.
Hey Zambia, are you ready to kickstart your Saturdays with insightful conversations, unmissable guests, and all the trending topics you need to know? Then you have to tune into the ZBTR TV show. It's an electrifying show every single Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. From current affairs to lifestyle, entertainment, and everything in between, we're your go-to source for vibrant discussions that matter to you. Mark your calendars. Every Saturday, 9 a.m. CST, join the ZBTR TV show live stream and be part of something amazing. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Most of our viewers are not subscribed, and we really want you to be part of our growing community. Also, give us a follow on our social media platforms to stay updated throughout the week.
My conversation today is about constitution making and economic development, a case for Zambia. The reason I am doing this is because when you go to vote next year in August, you need to understand the reason Zambia is in the position it is in, so that we do not make the same mistakes, because we keep doing the same thing. So you need to understand from what Mr. Lewanika is sharing with us where the problems come from. We can change these things, people. We can move away from this trend of keep pushing the rock up, then it keeps coming back. We can make a change. I want you to continue with the Mungomba thing. Could you just scoot back a little bit? Your head is cut.
I made a mistake. It's not the Mungomba. The next one, which produced the 1996 constitutional amendment, was the Mwanakatwe constitutional commission.
Yes.
Mwanakatwe.
So under the presidency, your head is cut. Just scoot back a little bit.
Back?
Yes, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Now, under the presidency of Mr. Chiluba, in transition from his first term to the second term,
yes,
he constituted the Mwanakatwe Commission. Now, out of all its recommendations, and one of the common things throughout is that the submission for the ordinary people in Zambia are more or less identical. The ones they said to the Chomna Commission, the ones they said to the Mvunga Commission, and the one they said to the Mwanakatwe Commission were almost the same. The running theme is that Zambians have never been comfortable with, and they've never consented to this personalization and centralization of power. But all their submission to power sharing between the head of stateship and the head of government have been rejected with by self-interested rulers. The Zambians have demanded genuine power sharing between the levels of government, between the central government and the local government. Not that central government should give money to the local government and then monitors whether they buy this. That's not power sharing. I think even the term decentralization should be abandoned because it has been abused. What is required is power sharing. And if you have your share of power, you must be in charge of that power of which you have a share. You can't be said to be power sharing when the power area of responsibility you've been given is being monitored by the central government. It means we really don't have a local government system. It's neither local nor is it a government. And that is also, so throughout this, all proposals in that direction have been rejected when they were put before Chona. They were rejected when they were put before Mvunga. They were rejected when they were put before Mr. Mwanakatwe for the 1976 election.
Yeah.
Because the authority to be able to reject what the people are saying is embedded in the Inquiries Act. So that is another act of parliament together with the Public Order Act that needs to be examined. That one, maybe you don't need to abolish it, but it needs to be amended so that you can't have a situation where the same cabinet, the same president proposes the terms of reference, proposes the members of the commission, and has a veto over what they propose. That basically needs to be re-examined. There must be another way of really honestly and genuinely consulting the people and hearing what they are saying. So from the Mwanakatwe, which was very elaborate, and one of the funny things is that all these constitutional reports,
they
are very elaborate, and they do take account of what was reported in the last commission. So the Mwanakatwe report is very elaborate and very comprehensive. But out of all its proposals, the cabinet and the president has the power to select. So there's not only to select, even to refuse. Because the idea of barring President Kaunda did not come from the Mwanakatwe report.
No.
But constitutional change purporting to be arising from that report. They proposed this citizenship problem.
Parental thing.
That by that time, I was in opposition. So we took that case to court, although it was a little bit misconceived legalistic, because we are taking it really politically rather than legally. So
when you say you were in opposition, this was agenda for Zambia, right?
This was National Party.
National.
After MMD. So that basically we were a little bit frustrated by President Chiluba being picky as to who is Zambian and the parentage, when his own parentage was publicly being questioned.
Yes, I remember.
So we took that. Now, our case fell over very legalistic terms. We had needed in the end a DNA test. Now, all the Supreme Court judges except Judge Ernest Sakala rejected that proposals. They said you can't have an accused person forced to testify against himself. Secondly, that if you have a case against him, it's up to you to prove that case with or without his cooperation.
Wow.
So the Supreme Court rejected the idea of DNA. Secondly, because it was a conglomeration of different parties. There was the National Party, there was UNIP, there was other parties which were putting forward this case. Now each party put forward contradictory proposal. Like UNIP had an elaborate case that Chiluba's father was Mozambican or something like that. We had the case that Chiluba's father was Congolese.
Yes.
So the Supreme Court said, I mean, you can't make up your mind. I mean, what are you saying? But the main one was that we can't force the cooperation of Mr. Chiluba to prove his parentage. If we are the one accusing him of his parentage, we should have proof that doesn't require his cooperation.
Okay.
But in any case, it was really, even ourselves, it was a mischievous court case. We were just putting it politically to demonstrate that there will be a lot of hypocrisy if you pursue this case.
Yes.
Many Zambians would fail this test. Now, when the court dismissed our case, they took advantage of the law that was set in at independence as to who should be a Zambian. And many Zambians need to examine the original case, constitutional position, as who is Zambian and not Zambian. It basically says that if your parent, let's say it was a Mwachusa from Tukuyu, he used to work for the mines and retired and went back to Tanganyika, but you remained. So if had your father remained, you would have been Zambian. Then even if your father did not remain, you were Zambian. So it means that all those people whose parents worked in the mines, worked in Northern Rhodesia, at independence, they had the rights to be Zambian.
Zambians, yeah.
So
in other words, if at
almost anybody can be Zambian.
Okay.
Almost anybody can be Zambian. And somehow suspect that some of the, maybe I shouldn't say this, some of us suspected that some of the judges in the Supreme Court had this same problem which Kaunda had, which Chiluba had. So they took advantage of our case.
That's what the issue was. I think that's what the issue was.
They took advantage of our case to make it categorical that Chiluba and Kaunda Zambians and anybody else really could be Zambian. And it's interesting that while we were taking the Chiluba case to the Supreme Court,
yes,
my comrade Lemi Mushota and who was that other comrade of Katioka?
Yes,
had taken Kaunda to the High Court in Ndola, which declared him stateless. And after that judgment, that case was supposed to come to the Supreme Court if it was appealed. But the Supreme Court judges took advantage of our case to also throw out that case before it even came. So that is now the Manakato Constitution, that the bulk of what was being proposed, what has been proposed in these commission reports have been of no partisan use, no personal use to the ruling political leadership. So they've been abandoned. They've only picked what suits them.
Yeah, that's been the trend.
Yeah, so this is now 95, 96. Then after that,
Mungomba.
We have the Mungomba Commission.
Yes.
Just like the other commissions, it's based on the Inquiries Act, with the same privilege of the cabinet and president to sieve it. And also with the same problem of accepting or not accepting the nominated commissioners. It was the desire of President Mwanawasa that those loud NGO activists, like in the NGO world,
yes,
should participate as commissioners. And I always think, because I was at one of these meetings, and I thought one unfortunate loss was that President Mwanawasa was very aware of the mischief of the Inquiries Act. So at one very large meeting in State House with the NGOs who were protesting against the Mungomba Commission, he promised that, listen, I hear you. So I'm assuring you that when the Mungomba Commission report comes, I'll publish it as it is before cabinet looks at it. And
he said that?
He said that. And I thought myself, maybe knowing him, I was inclined to believe him. And I thought from a practical point of view, this law was there. The only way we could bypass its mischief was to have a president who doesn't want to take advantage of it.
Okay.
In the same way that the law of Zambia allows the president to sign a death sentence. But President Mwanawasa made it very, very clear that he is against capital punishment.
Yes.
That as long as he was president, he was not going to sign it. So he didn't need to change the law, but he could change behavior. Now, unfortunately, the most militant people from the activist world challenged him right there. I don't want to mention the sister of mine who challenged him. Say, no, if you are promising, first you change the law. And then Levy, because Levy lost his temper. So he said, if you don't trust me, then forget it. So the Mungomba Commission went ahead.
Was this Lucy Sichone?
A very close sister to Lucy Sichone. I won't mention you become too close. It wasn't Lucy, but a very close colleague of hers.
Okay, let's leave it alone.
That lack of faith, because of how we have, what we have experienced in the past. And this is another factor, which even those of us who want to introduce changes and so on, we are faced with this problem that whatever we say to our people, whatever we promise to our people, is something they've heard over and over again from people who have betrayed their words over and over again.
That's true.
So that how do you gain trust? And trust once lost is very difficult. So one of the ongoing problems in Zambia is that who can gain the trust of Zambia that when I win the election, when we win the election, when we form a government, we are going to do these things differently from there. So that is a challenge that occurred. So the Mungomba Commission went ahead. Now, unfortunately, Levy actually did make a further statement other than the one that he was not going to do it. In a statement he made in Mfurila, and I know it because I drafted that passage where he categorically says that he wants a constitution to stand the test of time.
Yes.
And that his government has no particular interest to push except to listen to the people and find out the best constitution. And so apart from stating it in that meeting, he did also state it publicly. But the lack of faith delayed it. Then the whole process was further derailed by the proposal of having some kind of ongoing, endlessly going conference to look at the constitution in Mulungushi Hall, where people were getting such lucrative allowances that ministers even complained to the president that when they attend these meetings, they should also be paid allowances because their fellow attendees are getting enough money to buy cars, to buy houses. And then the president's response was that, well, if you would rather earn money without being a minister, just tell me, then I'll remove you from being a minister. Then you can continue attending this conference.
That sounds like Levy Mwanawasa. That sounds like Levy Mwanawasa.
This conference was endless. And then throughout his life, people would be canvassing to be there. So certain churches would send some people and they would be added, and political parties would send some would send people with the instruction that in this, what is this, 50 plus 1?
Yes.
You go and insist on 50 plus 1. Others were there under instruction that come what may, oppose 50 plus 1. So again, as individuals, the participants were not free. They did not go to that conference with open minds. They were not listening to each other. They were talking at each other.
Wow.
So that after a long time of wasting money, well, I guess those who were being paid didn't think it was a waste of money. Nothing came of that. So we didn't have any progressive constitution arising out of the Mungomba Commission. Although the Mungomba Commission, if it is to be read, it has all the ingredients that the Zambians have been demanding since 1972 in terms of constitutional changes that have been denied by the executive authority branch of government, or that have not been taken up at all. So that is now the Mungomba. Then we had...
Is it NCC? No.
Yes, that was the NCC. It was really just a money-mongering exercise. I must say that frankly.
Who constituted the NCC?
It was constituted by the president.
Who was the president?
No, it was Manawasa, because in other words, the path he had laid out at first basically was derailed.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not quite sure how it transformed into that conference thing. But that conference thing was really a misdirection. And it did not help us to come up with anything, because you don't want to have consultation in which people come without open minds, without listening to each other. Without actually debating and see whether or not two seemingly opposing views can be reconciled, or two different concerns can be met. Because there has to be a give and take in these things to come up with a better constitution.
Yes.
Indeed, the first constitutional regime of Zambia was a product of give and take. And that is why it is so tragic that that constitution has been mishandled from the very beginning, because the ruling party, immediately it was in power and independent, wanted to gain advantage which they had failed to gain when the negotiations were on. So as soon as independence came, they started undermining the agreements that they had reached at independence, the compromises they had reached. One of which, apart from Barotseland agreement, was the referendum clause. Because it was understood that this was a give and take arrangement. So you had to answer the question, how do we guarantee that it will be honored? How do we secure this compromise? And it was decided that the best compromise is to have a referendum clause, that nothing in the constitution should change unless it is taken to the people as a whole.
Yes.
Unless it is supported by the majority of eligible voters in the country. So, and that very anchor was the one UNIP went after immediately. So in the referendum of 69, they did not propose anything they are going to change. They just proposed to remove the referendum clause, which then licensed government to change the constitution simply by going to parliament. Without having to revert to people.
To the people, yeah.
And this is the license that has made all the changes to the Zambian constitution, starting from 1965. were for personal interest, for partisan interest, for short-term interest, and they were not even intended to be win-win.
Wow.
They knew who was going to be a victim, and they knew who was going to get the advantage.
Yeah, of course.
So all the changes up to the change that was made in 1991 to revert back to multi-party democracy. Yes. All the other changes in Zambian constitution detracted from the freedom of Zambians, detracted from the equality of Zambians before not only the law, but in power sharing, in governance. And after the 91 change, the next change is one we have discussed, 76. What was its purpose? To bar President Kaunda. Now, is that a long-term? I mean, he's a mortal person.
That's true.
Now he's no more. And Zambians who were not born at that time have to suffer the disadvantage, which was aimed at one person.
Exactly.
So all these constitutional regimes changes up to date, including the 2016, including the ones that UPND has been trying to propose lately, are personal, partisan, focused, and interested. The end result of any of them is not a win-win for all Zambians.
No.
The end result is that somebody is going to have an advantage and someone is going to have a disadvantage. Someone will find it easier to be re-elected, and someone will find it harder to get a chance to be elected. Now, we can't have this constitutional culture of constitutional manipulation continued. As I say, one of the difficulties is that if you proposed that you are going to do it differently, where are the Zambians who will believe you? And where are the Zambians who are believable?
Yeah, I know. I think our political leaders have lost trust with the nation. There are questions from the audience, Mr. Lewanika, I would like you to address.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the first one is from Nasilele. She says, if Zambia were to grant Barotseland the status of an integral state, would it be capable of sustaining itself independently? If so, what measures or strategies would be necessary to ensure its self-sufficiency and continued viability?
The answer to that is yes. Barotseland is bigger than 19 countries in Africa which are members of the African Union. There are no resources that are in the rest of Zambia which are not in Barotseland. But you see, that is not really the point. That is not really the point. In other words, the culprit position is the betrayal of what was agreed. The Barotseland Agreement was a settlement, negotiated, give and take, but it included the ingredient of real power sharing. And is this fear of sharing power, this appetite for personalized, centralized, monopolized power, which makes Barotseland a threat. That is the real power problem, because the Barroso authorities had some of them wanted Barotseland to be independent like Botswana. By the way, at the time of independence, there were more cattle in Barotseland than in Botswana. There are more forests in Barotseland than in Botswana. There's more water in Barotseland than in Botswana. There is no minu that is in Botswana that's not in Barotseland.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, maybe the challenge we have is we do not understand what area covered Barotseland. Could that be also part of the challenge? Because
that is a traditional red herring. Because if I ask that, what is the boundaries of Chewaland or Lubemba? You'll be faced with the same problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true.
Even in Europe, Germany's borders are being reconstructed in our lifetime. In our lifetime, there was this German. Now there is a united German, which unites East and West German. Before World War I, there was the Habsburg Empire, Vienna, and all these other countries were one. That empire, that country is not there anymore. And before World War II, there are parts of France which were in German. There are parts of German which were in France. So even the European borders are no better than the African borders. The only thing is that the European borders are made by Europeans. The African borders are made by Europeans, not Africans. The Asian countries have the good situation where the countries which were colonized territorially, socially, are the same as the countries that became independent. So you have Cambodia. It is the same country that existed before colonialism. You have Laos. You have many Asian countries got independent in the same entities they had before colonialism. The challenge in Africa is that the countries that constitute Africa, many of them were designed by Europeans for their own end. They've conglomerated us into problematic territories. And the African leaders, and it's not necessarily evil, they decided to accept the colonial borders, but they have not decided to go through with the acceptance of colonial orders. In the Congo, you have the Europeans had Rwandese and Burundians and Ugandan, Burundian, those, who found themselves in the territory under the Belgium's Congo, okay? Now, the same Africans who say that we should respect colonial borders call their fellow Congolese as Rwandese. These Mwanamlengas. It's like someone mistreating the Lozis in the Capriv, almost blaming them for being Lozi, when the border actually found them as they are.
As they are.
So that our leaders need to understand that nation building does not come with simply lifting a flag or getting a new name or getting an army which can kill, suppress anybody who says things to the contrary, or getting the police to arrest people, or charging those who question the unity of a country treason. That's not how you're going to build a nation. You build a nation by bending backward to make sure that you are treating others whom you want to be part of your nation the way you would like to be treated. That you are not voting along tribal lines, that you are not voting along regional line, that when there is ethnic imbalance in a cabinet, you don't approve it when the head of that government is your tribesman, and then disapprove it very loudly when he's not.
When he's not.
So the challenge is that, are we really, this Zambia we want to be one? Are we serious? And of course, the other aspect of it, which is raised by that question, is that if we want Zambia to be united, do you know the Zambia you want to unite? If you don't know Barotseland, but you want Barotseland to be part of Zambia, if you don't accept the identity, the history, the sentiment, the interest of Barotse people, but you want them to be part of your country, then you are part of the problem. And what must be understood clearly, and it's very difficult for many Zambians to understand because there's been too much propaganda, that the Barotseland Agreement was intended and was written categorically for the purpose of integrating Barotseland with Northern Rhodesia to create Zambia. You don't need to go beyond the first paragraph of the Barotseland Agreement to understand that it was an integration instrument. But there is propaganda that people think the Barotseland Agreement is about secession, when it was about a very openly negotiated decision to go into independence as one. This one Zambia, one nation, I've said it so many times, is not about a Lozi marrying a Lunda or a Bemba marrying Gon. We Africans have been intermarrying. We actually all products of intermarriage. We didn't learn this from colonialists. Kaunda did not start intermarriage. It's not about that. It's the fact that there was an option for Barotseland to go the way of Botswana or Lesotho. Then a decision was made, and it is written in the Barotseland Agreement, that the Litunga of Barotseland and his government has agreed with Prime Minister Kaunda on behalf of the Northern Rhodesia government that they intend to go into independence as one country, one nation. Those are the very words that are in the Barotseland Agreement. That is where one Zambia, one nation comes from. Okay? Now, the same document which unites us, the person who unilaterally, without consultation, without any sensitivity, tears it up, is the one you think was a unifier. Can you imagine? Someone tears up the marriage certificate, starts behaving different from what you agreed in the wedding, and he decides that, no, the priest said from now on, the two shall become one. So you, madam, become a non-person. Only me will be a person because the priest says we shall become one. So that's what Zambia is saying to Barotseland. That because we are one Zambia, one nation, even the very name Barotseland should be rejected. That you should be Western province, which means nothing. It has no history. Its history starts with a press conference in 1969. How can we unite on that flimsy type of things? So it means each time people are mistreated, the question of whether the nation will be united or not comes up because you have not seriously united. You are not making efforts. So the question of boundaries, it's basically those who just are fed up. They don't want you to talk about Barotseland. They don't want you to talk about the concerns of Barotseland. They want you to shut up. So each time you talk about water in Barotseland, they say, where are the boundaries? But if I talked about the same issue in another part of Zambia, because it's non-threatening to those who intend not to share power. Those who don't want to share power, they should be separatable power between the central government and local government. There should be separatable power between the traditional authorities and the central government. Isn't it a shame that the power that traditional authorities, not only Barotseland, in Northern Rhodesia, had from 1936 up to independence are less than what they have after independence? Our traditional authorities are more powerless than they were under colonialism. Is that decolonization? Who was colonized anyway? The people who were colonized were the traditional African kingdoms. Did decolonization take back the power white people took from them back to them? No. It gave it to others who now are following the white man's burden of disempowering traditional authorities.
And in turn demand that traditional, so-called traditional leaders should not participate in politics, right?
Yes, yes. So where they say you should be, they've made sure there is a field of powerlessness. where there is power, say no, you can't stand for election. Meanwhile, when they want votes, they will kneel even before a village headman. They will give money even to a village headman for their votes. But after they've gotten that vote, for instance, there is a new thing about, I think, development committees
CDF
that have been proposed lately, in which the chief is supposed to report to a councillor.
How?
No, that's what is written. And in fact, the cover for that document has even a sketch, like an organizational chart, with the chief being below and reporting to the councillor, who is chairman of the development committee.
Oh, wow. Let's look at another question, sir. Grace says, with Zambia's remarkable history and the progress we've witnessed as a nation, what 3 key lessons or priorities do you believe today's young people should focus on as we go into elections?
Thank you. That's a very important question. It's one I'm very concerned with, and I've been discussing with many young people. That there are some young people who, even when they are at university, they'll stop you. How do I become an MP? Then there are some young people outside the universities, I want to become president. So I always tell them that we didn't become politicians as our ambition from birth or from school.
Yes, yes.
We found certain outstanding issues in the countries which could only be dealt with by us mobilizing and organizing people. And as a outcome of that organization, identifying the problem in the country and identifying the changes that were necessary. That's how we went into that. Now, after we changed the country from one party to the multi-party, all the risks that was there before is gone. Now, what are there are opportunities to eat. So others want to be MPs, councillors, blah, 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 in order to eat.
Of course.
Okay? Even at independence, people who are fighting for independence, the most likely outcome was that they will be jailed or killed. But after independence, they start talking about eating the fruits of independence. So that leadership is a service to solve identified problems that must be social problems, not your personal problem. That you've just decided that selling spare parts at the market doesn't earn you as much as being an MP, so you want to be an MP. Solving your own economic problems. So that now that, in fact, the challenge before young people, because they are the only people who are challenges, those who are older and us, we have tried, and people need to take over from us. But they need a mission. There used to be a song which probably young people understand, that now that we have love, what do we do with it? So the question was that after we had independence, what did we do with it? Because in truth, any cross-examination, we are not independent. We've never been independent. We are not in charge of our land and natural resources. We are not in charge of our economy. We are not in charge of even our policies. If Trump wants you to approve the genocide in Gaza, if a Zambian or African government doesn't go along, they threaten you with the removal of US aid. And then you shake, they threaten you with the tariffs because you are not in line with American interests. Now, until we have African governments that cannot be controlled outside like that, then we'll be moving towards the genuine independence. So I urge and pray for a generation of Africans who really want our independence to be real, who really want to advance the decolonization process more than we got with our flag, our paper independence, our seat at the United Nations. That doesn't give us independence. But so that is one. Now, economically, we have to look at our land and natural resources. How do we command our land and natural resources? We should be in charge of that land. Right now, we are facing an onslaught. They are compromising our seed sovereignty. In the Zambian parliament, in the Kenyan parliament, they've already passed the law. In the Zambian parliament, I don't know if they've already passed it, but they're certainly entertaining it. Making our indigenous African seeds illegal, making it criminal to share our indigenous seeds from village to village, and killing our indigenous seeds, substituting it with a seed process that we do not control. So those are the issues that young people now face. Your present governments are prepared to surrender our seed sovereignty. Land ownership. You know, at one time it seemed so progressive when you say, no, you need each land should, what do they call it? This paper the banks want.
Title deed.
Title deed. Now the government is saying that if they just add a classroom to a community school, that land on that community school must have a title deed. What does title deed mean? In fact, the proper word should be a title transfer deed. It's transferred title which we have held all centuries old to a government which is more powerful than its people. So that now that land will become state land. The traditional authorities who give away that land give away power over it. If there is a lease payable for that land, the money goes to the council, commanded by someone in Lusaka, not commanded by the traditional authority that has looked after that land. So that is another radical issue that we have to look at.
I agree.
So land question, the question of our mineral resources. Someone the other day I was pointing out that I think our president, HH, had complained that out of all the provinces, only 4 or 5 are really working. The rest, nothing is happening there. That was his complaint. Then when he listed which provinces are working, he listed Southern Province, he listed Lusaka, he listed Central Province, he listed Copperbelt, and he listed Solwezi. He listed Northwestern, but I know he meant Solwezi. Now, all these have one thing in common. This is where the Cicero Roads Railway runs.
Yeah.
So in the colonial economy, which we need to decolonize, focus on developing the area around the line of rail. 60 years plus after independence, we have not changed that pattern.
Unfortunately.
So that the parts of the country which look like they are not working, differ from the parts of the countries which are working in one way. The parts of the country which are looking like they are working don't have land under native control. And the government is insisting that you can only get development by alienating your land, by giving away your land, by getting a title deed that disempowers your community over that land, that awards those who get title for the gains of that. So that is why the rest of the country is poor, because the condition that development only comes through land alienation is faulty. There is no genuine development that comes with land alienation. Land has been alienated in many parts of the Copper Belt. And we have seen what passes for development. One, it's not owned, not even by the Zambian government. It's not owned by Zambian people. It's owned by foreigners. So it's their development. We are just, and they can even pressure us. If you want to increase tax, they say you are discouraging investors. So we surrender. Trump is raising tariffs against us.
Yeah.
We are lowering taxation on tariffs on our exports, but someone is raising tariffs on our imports.
And letting foreigners into the country without paying visas.
Yes. And now they are increasing the level. I wish we could have African governments that if they hear from Washington that for your people to get a visa, they should pay $15,000. We should just say that for any American to come to our Africa, should pay $20,000.
Exactly.
I'm sure we can find more use for that than sending our people to countries that don't want us.
Exactly. Here's another question.
Yes, please.
Let's do another question before. I agree. This is from Miss Elizabeth. I agree the Mungomba Commission did a lot, but why have we as Zambians not taken advantage of all that information, but keeping up with small bills such as Bill 13 and Bill 10?
Yes, that's a very good point to keep in mind. That is part of this first and characteristics. All the changes to our constitution have been selective. And since 1969, they've been fielded through parliament. A parliament whose members are not free to think about bills, to speak about things according to their knowledge or their conscience, who follow their party dictates. So that if you are in the ruling party and the government comes up with Bill 13, if you do not vote accordingly, they will tell you they are not going to adopt you, or they can even instantly fire you from their party and cause a by-election. So we are having a parliament full of people who are scared of by-elections, scared of not being readopted. How can these scared people be relied upon to give us a good constitution? The other aspect, in fact, today I was just coming from the memorial of President Mwanawasa, and one thing that came to mind is how he addressed the controversial issue of GMO, the genetically modified organism.
Yes, I remember that.
That, you see, he did not just stand up and hold a press conference and decide what he thinks and declare what he thinks to be the Zambian position. He called all our scientists, few as they were. He called a mass meeting at Mulungushi. It was packed. The donors were there pushing their goals. In fact, some of the donors had even hired Kenyan scientists and South African to come and try to convince us. It is after this open, absolutely open debate, with the government at first not taking any position, not coming there with a proposal, but waiting for proposals to arise out of the people. Real consultation. On the basis of that consultation, which now included a team going around the world to educate themselves on these issues as they manifest themselves in Nordic country, in America, in England, in France. Then they came back. That is when now there was a principle established of Zambian policy, which was called the cautious approach, that before we allow these things to come, we must have a capacity, one, to detect them, and a capacity to analyze them. So they set up a lab. I hope it's still functioning at Mount Makulu for that purpose. So the position of Zambia against GMO was not made by the cabinet of Zambia. It was not made by the president of the Zambia. The cabinet and the president of Zambia facilitated open forums to debate and then made up. So one of the problems is that the country since 1969 has been bombarded by many bills which try to provide solutions to questions we have not even addressed, to problems we have not analyzed. It just comes back as a solution. And that is part of the thing, the lack of consultation in all these controversial bills. It is a good thing that most of these bills are finding, thanks to the new media, are finding avenues for people to protest. Usually you can't protest through government media, but now there's a wide enough media that people get to know that there are questions over this bill. But that shouldn't be the case, because before there is a bill, we must know what the problem is, and we must know who has said that there's a problem. The people must be able to say that we have a problem, or particular sectors should say they have a problem. And then the government should facilitate for as many relevant voices to be heard. And the proposals must be openly and honestly subjected to debate by people who are free. If these proposed bills have to do with our human and civil rights, have to do with our rights in the Bill of Rights, I plead that we must ensure that we reintroduce the referendum clause so that any change that touches our rights should not be entertained except after it has gone through a referendum of the people as a whole. And that we can't continue changing our constitution by decree initiated by the president or initiated by the cabinet or initiated by a ruling party. That is what the fault is. So the number one problem is that in 1969, the referendum tricked Zambians into voting yes to a proposal that took away powers from Zambian people as a whole, handed it over to parliament, whose members are partisan all the time, whose members are scared of whether or not they'll be readopted or whether or not they'll be fired from their party and be subjected to by-election. That is not a secure house to entertain constitutional changes.
Let's read, this is just a statement from Chipiri. He says, I propose that let's have transition president in 2026 as all opposition and progressive ruling party members to rally behind the opposition candidature, so that his or her mandate is to make sure that he won with a constitution that will stand the test of time. That's a comment from Chipi.
Yes.
That's his comment. I have two questions before we end, Mr. Lewanika. Two questions. Looking back over 30, 40 years, from the structural adjustment in the 90s to today's debt restructuring talks, with constitutional provisions or political decisions, what is the biggest economic consequence this has had on the country?
Yes, unfortunately, we have been led by the more political issues to the detriment of the economic question. So I'm glad that you have brought it up. It's very, very important because, and this requires us to review the history of the African liberation struggle. Some of the things, the philosophies that sounded so good in the fight against colonialism need to be re-examined. For instance, our great hero, Kwame Nkrumah, made a famous cry that seek ye first the political kingdom, and all things will be added unto you. Even within Zambia, in 1969, there was a very long speech called Watershed Speech, in which President Kaunda now declared that, okay, now that we have political freedom, now Zambia is ours, we have economic freedom. So there was always this philosophy of separating politics from economics, thinking that there is political power first, then you use political power to change the economy. But then you find that as long as you don't change the colonial economy, whatever power you think you have is a mirage. So that, unfortunately, I will get, you see, when we got into, after 68, 69, we started nationalizing. But when you examine, what did we nationalize? How did we nationalize? We nationalized not without compensation, but with compensation. We nationalized, particularly the mines.
Yes.
While giving the same Anglo-Americans the management contract. And then assuring them that whatever share we were buying as a state would be paid back to them through our earnings. Meanwhile, in addition to our earnings we're paying them, they will be earning as contracted managers who are in charge of procurement. And procurement is critical function because it allows you to transfer a cost. Yes. Because it's up to you to say, this is £2, this is £3, and so on. So that after 10 years or so, the mines are no longer functioning the way they were functioning. So we now switch to privatization. How do we privatize? The same people like Anglo-Americans get back in the mines we had nationalized. Now cheaper, less, in other words, for getting back this mine, they paid us less than we paid them for nationalizing the mines. And the system of production, the system of marketing, the power over the marketing chain is still not in our hands. It is assumed that the land on which these mines are built is of little value, just the value you pay for licenses, prospecting licenses, and so on. I believe that we need to understand that land is the most valuable thing. There is no industry, no mine that you can put on a piece of land that you should be cheated is more valuable than the land on which it sits. So our people, as the people who kept this land, should be shareholders of every mine, and their contribution should be that land at a minimum. So that we should not only take taxes, and so we should also be shareholders in every industry that comes to us on these mines. In terms of this structural adjustment, the IMF projects, we are being cheated. Where I said I just come from a memorial for Mwanawasa.
Yes.
And as we have done over the last 16 or 20 years, we have praised the Mwanawasa government for achieving for Zambia the status of a highly indebted poor country, deserving of debt relief. And we had reached the point of needing this because we could not pay our debt. Now, the people we owed the debt realized that we will never be able to pay them. So they decide that we have to forgive the debt so that we start again. But they don't just forgive your debt. They start managing your economy. And they give you the fiction that while you owed us this debt, if you were paying back this debt, you would have been spending so much money. Without giving you money, they say, now the money you should have been repaying, we say, don't pay us, but spend it in this way. So they now decree how you spend your budget. If you want to continue subsidizing maize, they say, no, if you subsidize maize, we are not forgiving your debt. So they start basically managing our economy in their interest. And then award you with a debt-free slate. The minute your slate is debt-free, and the minute you are managing your economy according to them, then they say, now you are ready to start getting fresh debts. So we get surprised that after so many years, the pile of debt has gone up again. Again, they are coming back to us that, no, we can only give you IMF money if you reform. What is the reform? That we give them power to micromanage our economy in the interest of investors. Now, this dependency on investors, foreign investors, whom you don't control, maybe you need foreign investors. Maybe the Chinese have benefited from foreign investors. But the foreign investors in China are under the control of the Chinese. So they are working according to the Chinese. They are not making the Chinese work according to the investors. So we have agreed to disempower ourselves by a mirage of gains. So we need to depend on our own land and natural resources and our own human resources, and we need to really determine our economic management, even infrastructure. I think I've mentioned that the president was complaining that only 5 provinces are working. And those provinces that are working are those in which land is not owned by natives. That is not development. That's the development of those you've given land to. That is their development. So that we need to now determine our own development. Why is it that someone in Serenge who wants to go to Chama or Lundazi has to go back to Kapiri, then Kabwe, then Lusaka, then Nyimba, then Katete, Petauke, Katete, Chipata, and then climb back. Because the road infrastructure are not created for us. They are created where these foreign investors, the Cicero Road successors, want it. So the railway line runs from the Ndola border to Cape Town and to Durban, because that's the interest of Cicero Roads. But you don't have a railway line that goes where the natives have an interest. The Tazara, by the way, was a proposal that has been discussed since the 1940s. Always rejected, that is not economical because the market is south. Until UDI, and even at UDI, Zambia actually preferred for the Americans, the British, and the Canadian to assist us in building the Tazara. They refused until President Nyerere's government, using his minister, Mohamed Babu, a Zanzibari revolutionary who had good contacts with the Chinese, to contact Chairman Mao. Then later on, President Nyerere informed his colleague that we are wasting our time with Westerners. There is a signal that we might get what we want from the Chinese. That's when Zambia and Tanzania now went to the China. That's how the Tazara was formed. So otherwise, if there was no UDI,
there will be no
railway line between Kapiri going through Kasama, going to Tanzania, no. So the same with our road systems. So that, and part of this is also related to genuine power sharing, this type of decentralization. In other words, at local government level, if they had their own budget in which they are required to have their infrastructure and they make the decisions, not making them in Lusaka, for the same amount of money, they are likely to create infrastructure that saves the local community rather than the foreign community. I often say in Barotseland that if somebody gave us money to build a 600 kilometers road, why would we take it from Mungu to Lusaka? Because 300 kilometers can join Lukulu, Kalabo, Sinanga, Sisheke, Kaoma in a circle railway line. Yes. The rest of the 300 kilometers will get us to the Capriv and open to Ovis Bay and open to Durban, open to Johannesburg, rather than to get to Johannesburg by first going to Lusaka. Okay, and so that if we decentralize and share power, real power, not this money that goes to local government by grace and on condition that you do. In other words, the Minister of Local Government actually sends instruction from his government to local government. Build desks, build classroom, build latrine, whatever it is. It's not local people saying we have this revenue. When we go to council, this is our revenue, this is our expenditure, we have our own budget. In fact, I must say that I don't approve of members of parliament being in district council, because they boss the local people. Now, for a district council to build a classroom, at the handover, the MP has to come to pretend that money came from his sweat. And he should be rewarded with re-election because he has built a classroom. That is very hardworking. But if that money was the revenue to the whole council, then they decide what they do locally. Before independence, you had, for instance, in the field of education, I went to primary school after Usakile. I went to Tunduya outside Monali in Lusaka. It was called Tunduya LEA School, Local Education Authorities. We need to revisit those. That the local authorities, at least up to a certain stage of education, they should be in charge. Even in the health, some clinics should be local authority clinics. Some roads should be local authority roads. So that basically you need the economic challenge is also related to command of our land and natural resources. It's also related to power sharing, so that every corner of the country, you don't have a situation where I'm sure even at your long distance, you hear Zambians, Boma Langen, that everywhere you give them a microphone to build a local market. We would like the government and our dear beloved President HS to think about us. We want to build. And these are not even the word market is an exaggerated glorification of something that is less like that. These are open markets. But even that cannot be made entirely by the local authority because they don't have a revenue of themselves. Then the other problem is that the municipal governance, before independence, these were civic. That's why the Lusaka local government office is called Civic Center.
Yes.
They were not supposed to be political. Now you get to be a councillor through partisan politics, commanded by the center in Lusaka. So that we also need to, some of the local authorities must return back to being civic and non-partisan. And then the traditional authorities, we have to revisit those native authorities. They had powers over some infrastructure. They had powers over some judicial function. They had powers. They even had powers of taxation over somewhere. They even had powers to have scholarships. I always give the example of the late Andrew Kashita, that he went to Manali under a scholarship from the Mwansabombwe Native Treasury. All those Barosis who went to Manali were funded by local authorities, native authorities. So that after independence, you disempower them, marginalize them, and then you think you can micromanage the national economy from one center. And one center which is become so partisan political that it's nationalism. You don't know whether if the president speaks, is he speaking as a national leader or as a party leader? Is he campaigning or is he governing? We don't know. It's election. So sometimes maybe we are even unfair to him. Even when he's governing nationalistically, we think he's campaigning. If he opens a clinic, he's campaigning. And you are not sure whether you are wrong by judging him like that. If a CDF expenditure, grants, donations being given locally, I know from Mungu where I stand, they are being given in the name, the personal name of the president. Groups of 20s, I met one group, they were looking for a place to have a business in chickens. And they said, no, we've already been given this money, but we have to show pictures that we have a facility for chickens. So they took their pictures. And I'm sure they got their money, but I haven't seen them again. because there is no monitoring. And they told me specifically that this money is coming from our president, HH. So that we can't manage our economy like that. You are beginning to raise a question which maybe we'll discuss at another time. Our international relations economically, we have to start paying attention to the African leaders who are reviving the pan-Africanist spirit, demanding command over our natural resources.
Let me comment on that, Mr. Lewanika. Isn't this the time the African countries, and Zambia in particular, should reflect and revisit its relationship with its diaspora?
Yes, it has always been time to do that. And I mean, the role of the diaspora in Egypt, in Ethiopia, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Sudan, even South Sudan, is being used as an example that this is in some countries, this is the biggest sector of the economy.
Yeah.
And it's the most spread out because you see, the resources coming from our own citizens in the diaspora don't just go to one town. They don't just go into housing. They don't just go into buying food. They go into everything. They go into the smallest family unit and in the smallest location of our people. So it is very, very important. But Zambia has been, we did over the last few years, start addressing that. I'm sure you would remember the big debate over dual citizenship.
Yes.
What was funding that debate was the realization that, no, we have to pay attention to the diaspora. The assumption that whoever has dual citizenship is on the way to being a traitor or something is ridiculous. That the country doesn't lose anything if our citizens have dual citizenship. They may gain a lot. And I think even the cost of passports for people who want dual citizen should be reduced. The bureaucracy should be reduced. If someone is a Zambian and has just become British because he went to school there, because he got a job there, because there are other advantages you are gaining by being a citizen, and very little harm to your, no harm basically to your native country. And that's very, very important to pay attention to that. And we have to pay attention to what is happening in Ghana and in Egypt and in Ethiopia. And so many, when we are talking about dependence on investors.
Yes, foreign investors.
The risks we are talking about are non-existent if those foreign investors are from our diaspora.
There you go.
So that it is something that we should definitely pay attention to. And if we study, as I have been looking at Ghana, because Ghana is drawing not just the diaspora of people who are Ghanaian citizens, but the diaspora of all Africans who are in the Caribbean and in the America. They are finding a real serious accommodation there, and they are contributing enormously. And this brings me back to the need. You were asking the question about what is our advice to young people.
Yes.
One of the advice is to study pan-Africanism and take it up of Africa at home and abroad. Understand it, that Africa is the home of all Africans, even if they've been away for generations for 400
That's right.
years.
That's right.
They should be welcomed. They should be introduced. They should not be harassed. There should even be discrimination. That if we say Americans should pay $20,000 for a visa,
the sons of Africa shouldn't pay.
Then we can say those Americans who are the sons of Africa will talk on the side so that they are encouraged to come.
That's right.
And there is also a counter. You see, as you get investment from the outside Africa, from the diaspora, there is also opportunities for those who are in the continent to also find opportunity of investing in useful things in the diaspora under the guidance of the Africans in the diaspora.
That's true. That's very
because
true.
the economics is always about exchange. It cannot be just one way. So as you get some things from outside, you have to look at what things can get out of here so that you are benefiting both ways.
Yeah.
Then also on the same topic of how to deal with our international economics. Right now, Africa is on the attack. Lesotho economy is about to be destroyed on account of tariffs.
Oh, yeah.
The South African economy is being threatened on AGOA for political reasons, not economic reasons.
Yeah.
It would be good if Africa has a continental response to these things, rather than once one of us is being throttled, we are watching. Wait until it's our turn to be throttled. The African Union and the African populations, the African politicians must become pan-Africanists by responding that a threat to the economy of Lesotho is a threat to all Africans.
All Africans.
Yes, particularly if these threats are not even based on economics or market, they are based on politics. That someone decides that there is genocide against Afrikaners in South Africa. Then the rest of us keep quiet. Next time you declare that because of this and this, Zambia is committing human rights, blah, 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 blah. So I will increase tariffs. So we do need an African response. Zambian young politicians or would-be politicians should be listening to the new president in Botswana, the new president in Namibia, the leadership in Niger, in Guinea, in Burkina Faso, even the returned president of Ghana. So that our politics should also be at that level. It will be such a shame that after 2026 election, Zambia produces leaders who cannot stand shoulder to shoulder with President Woko in Botswana, who cannot stand shoulder to shoulder with Madam President in Namibia, who cannot outshine Traore, a soldier. Why? We have to participate in this nationalistic economics of demanding ownership and control of our land and natural resources, making sure that any exchange we have with outsiders cannot continue to perpetuate our dependency, perpetuate our underdevelopment, and be shortchanged, that other people should be able to benefit from our resources more than we benefit from them. Partly because you are undervaluing our labor, you are undervaluing our land, you are undervaluing our resources. That somebody who gets gold from Africa takes it to Europe, he earns more than those from whom the gold has been taken.
Yeah.
So those are the sort of politics that one would like to be introduced in the political arena in Zambia ahead of the election. This means that there was that comment about the need for all the oppositions to get together and the progressive people in the ruling party to join to bring about change. Our challenge has been the same all along. We have definitely learned how to change governments, but not how to change governments for a better, decisive change. So the challenge is not just getting together enough to bring in a new president or bring in a new ruling party. If their agenda is the same, which purports to continue with the Public Order Act, this occasional state of emergency, which perpetuates economic dependency on the West, which does not seize control of our land and natural resources, which does not share out powers so that they immediately go into the constitution. That commentator was mentioning that they commit themselves to the constitution, but they have to be very clear what are they changing in the constitution and what are they changing in the process of constitution making, which can save us from rolling this mythical rock up the hill and letting it roll back to the bottom in the valley every time we make the effort.
Out of the 17 questions we prepared, we've only tackled 5.
Well, and we haven't even done justice to them.
No, we'll do a part 2. I need to get with you and find out what your schedule is. Before we end, I have one final question, but I also wanted to show you this. Zenith says, this is such an interesting history class. Okay, thank you, Zenith. And Elizabeth says, this has been a great discussion. I wish it can be aired on national TV. More Zambians need to watch this great discussion. Final question, Uncle Aka. Final question. It's personal to you. Okay. What's the single biggest political achievement you carry with pride? And what's the moment you wish you can undo in your political career?
Oh, there are so many moments to undo. Some of them I accept that they were not good moves, but they could not be otherwise. For instance,
by you rejecting to sit on the Constitutional Commission.
No, that is at a personal level. I regret I could have bought a house, but I don't cry too much about that. Because I would have been so ashamed of myself that I would still be unhappy. Yeah. So I think one of in the case of transformation is one that we were talked into just changing clause 4 of the one-party state constitution, just to allow multi-party, but keep the whole package of the one-party state. Even at this memorial, in fact, every official function reminds me how we have failed to really remove the one-party state system. That when they are doing their protocols, they recognize the president, the ministers. Somewhere at the top, they recognize the ruling party leadership. This is at a state function. We had hoped that once the one-party state is removed, there will be a total separation of the state and party. That there will be clear separation between state and party, including the finances. So that you find that we still have this one-party state mentality, that the ruling party actually is just another unit, that the party is actually the owner of the government. I think that tactic we made, I can't see how we could have avoided it, because after a while you are so anxious. And even in this electoral run-up to election, there is a common problem we have made, not only myself, but maybe all of us, of looking at the next election as a do or die. In other words, stand for election completely convinced that come what may, you will win. When you lose, you get confused. So we need an objective which you are prepared to stick to and fight for, win or lose the next election. We need to commit ourselves to something. Winning the election, becoming president, becoming MP should not be the objective. The objective is to change the country. And any fundamental change of the country cannot be assumed to be anything other than protracted. You don't know when the change will actually succeed. But what you must commit yourself is never to surrender, lose or win. Even when you win the election, the struggle to change the country, that's when it will actually begin. That's when you make decision whether to continue with the Public Order Act or not, because now your interests become confused. That's when you decide in favor of not allowing people to oppose you, not allowing people to defeat you. So the struggle is always a protracted one. And it should be your primary goal of determining what do you want to change and fight for it on a committed, continuous basis, so that you don't change or surrender. That's where you have now, you are faced with a group of political actors who have been maybe in all contending parties. Today they are fighting UPND, but last year they were part of UPND. Today they are fighting PF, but yesterday they were PF.
They were PF.
So that now the key actors actually have been in all these parties.
Yeah, we need
and
to
they will
eliminate
still
that.
be in any party that adopts them.
We need to eliminate that.
Yes. So
anybody,
that in your choice of leaders, and then there's the issue of corruption. I don't believe that any of us are ill-equipped to judge between corruptible element and non-corruptible element. I think we cannot always excuse ourselves that we voted for someone because we could not anticipate that they are buyable. Because in any case, many of us vote for people who have bought us. So if they can buy you, they also can be bought.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. If you require money for the person you are voting for, then the chances are very highly that you will vote for someone who will govern with the money motivation in mind.
Yeah, that's true.
So that is basically another challenge to our young people.
Well,
and that there is no change, serious change that can come without sacrifice.
That's true.
And that can come priceless. If it comes with awards, the chances are that is just for yourself, not for the nation.
Thank you, sir. This has been like everybody is saying that this is an intriguing history lesson. And like I've said, my purpose and objective, this is an election year.
Yes.
You know, most of our population is young. They do not have a clue to the information that you have shared. And I hope that when we go to vote, we are not going to make the mistakes that we have made in the past. Like you have said, voting for the state. It's like I like what you have said. This is a crucial election. There's no such thing as a crucial election. An election is an election. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today was Mr. Akashambatwa Mbikusita Lewanika, veteran politician, a man who has led all his life to Zambia's democratic process. Sir, I cannot thank you enough for doing this. We need to do a part 2, Uncle Aka, part 2.
Okay, you prepare for it.
I'll prepare for it, and because I'll emphasize this, going into this election year, it's crucial for us to have these conversations. I'm sure you agree. Yes. Yeah.
No, I'm ever ready now. The other issue which I didn't say is that real change will only be brought about by political actors who lend full time to it. It cannot be a part-time. One of the lessons I learned by working with President Kaunda after he was in opposition was to realize how committed he was to his politics. He was a full-time.
Wow.
He subordinated his life. Everything in him was in the struggle. Whether you agree with his actions, his decision, but he was full-time. He was full-time. If you have other priorities, sometimes those who are campaigning for change, when a meeting is called, they'll say, no, I have to go to Chilanga, there is business. If you have split loyalties with money and politics, you are not going to bring about real change.
No, it can't happen.
It can't happen. So a certain group of people have to be full-time. Our independence started with volunteers, the generation of the Donald Swale, the generation of my father, up to Harry Nkumbula. They were volunteers. But by 1953, 56, more and more of them found themselves full-time. No house. They were being given food, meal by the people.
Imagine.
They were being fed by the areas where they went to campaign. And that's why they were able to achieve something.
That's true.
Even us, to return to multi-party, there was a lot of sacrifice, total commitment.
Yeah.
Although we lost the ball after winning, then it became an eating table.
You took a sacrifice that I believe when you look back, some of us didn't think you'd be alive now. I mean, that was a serious situation. Most people don't think like that, Uncle Aka. I mean, I remember these words, some people don't know. Come November 1. Come November 1.
I don't just remember the words. I can even visualize the picture on TV.
Yeah. The young people don't know that. You have to pay,
saying those words with red eyes.
You have to pay the sacrifice.
That come November 1, I'll cut off your tongues.
Come November 1. They don't know that. They don't know that. Our great leader, may he rest in peace.
In fact, at one time I wanted to title my next book, Come November 1.
Come November 1. You should write a book on that. You should write a book on that. Mr. Lewanika, thank you so
very much, my brother. This is excellent.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate you, and we'll connect soon. We'll connect soon. Everybody, that was Mr. Akashambatwa Mbikusita Lewanika. The reason for this is I want you to know where we are coming from. They say people don't know their history are bound to repeat it. Next week, my strong standing patriotic Zambian Roger will be here. We are going to be looking at how Zambia has managed its mineral resources, really focusing on the situation going on in Mufumbu with the gold thing and everything else. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Let this go viral. Let this go viral. I do appreciate everybody tuning in. we shall definitely see you next week.
Ready to take your nursing career to the next level? At Global Nurse Pathways, we're here to make your dream of working in the US healthcare system a reality. From expert NCLEX exam preparations to personalized consulting and relocation support, led by the incredible Dr. Alice Nalondo, who holds a Doctor of Nursing practice and is certified as a family nurse practitioner and a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. Our team delivers top-notch training to help you answer the NCLEX exam. Once you pass your NCLEX exam, we will connect you with the US-based recruiting agencies, setting you on the path to an amazing career in healthcare. Ready to get started? We're just a call or a message away. Call or WhatsApp us now at +1 346 328 1110 for the US or +260 961 875 081 for Zambia or email info@embbehavioral.com. Let's make your dreams come true together. Global Nurse Pathways, transforming careers, changing lives.
Zambia, are you ready to kickstart your Saturdays with insightful conversations, unmissable guests, and all the trending topics you need to know? Then you have to tune into the ZBTR TV show. It's an electrifying show every single Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. From current affairs to lifestyle, entertainment, and everything in between, we're your go-to source for vibrant discussions that matter to you. Mark your calendars. Every Saturday, 9 a.m. CST. Join the ZBTR TV show live stream and be part of something amazing. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Most of our viewers are not subscribed, and we really want you to be part of our growing community. Also, give us a follow on our social media platforms to stay updated throughout the week.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.